Welcome everyone to Dialed In, the podcast about customer service, automation, AI, contact centers, and everything in between. I'm the host of this podcast, Gadi Shamia, the CEO and co-founder of Replicant, a company that automates customer service calls, chat, SMS at large scale for enterprise customers. And today we have a special guest, and we're actually recording this call on Zoom, which was his last company. So I would like to welcome Harry Mosely, a longtime CIO and most previously the CIO of Zoom, the company we all know and like. Welcome to the pod, Harry.
Great to be here, Gadi, and looking forward to sharing some thoughts with you over the next 30, 45 minutes.
Tell me a bit more about you. Maybe just introduce yourself. I know you live in New York, and I know you've been a CIO for a long time. And of course, I know about your role with Zoom and some other companies. But how would you introduce yourself when you meet someone professionally?
So I had a long career in technology, 4.5 decades, working most of the time in financial services for companies like UBS, Credit Suisse, and Blackstone. 5 years in professional services with KPMG. And then 4.5 years for Zoom as their CIO, and started off my career as a programmer and founded my own company back in 1981, although we didn't call it a startup back then. And retired for the second time last year. The first time I retired was December 2017, and clearly failed at retirement there and joined Zoom in March of 18. Retired from Zoom July of last year, and now focused on not quote working, but sort of helping companies, helping individuals, mentoring people, and guiding companies. Because the way I look at it, Gadi, is I have been very fortunate. I've worked for great organizations, and people help me along my career, and so now I feel it's incumbent upon me to sort of pay that forward, if you will, and help others build great companies and have great careers. So I'm an investor and an advisor and a mentor to many.
So tell me, you talk about Zoom and this coming back from retirement for Zoom. And in 2018, I think I was already a user of Zoom at the time, but it was definitely not a household brand as it is today. What got you out of retirement to take on your first software technology CIO role with Zoom? That was, again, doing really well at the time, but not as well known.
Yeah, well, I was kind of resistant, to be honest. Back in January of 2018, I remember telling Eric, sort of, not sure I want to do this. I'm quite happy being retired. And but then I got to know Eric, and he's just super smart, brilliant, and a really nice and humble and respectful individual. And I thought, once I understood his vision, and I understood what he was, what his objective was with Zoom, I thought this could be a lot of fun, and I thought I could help him and the team, and so I agreed to join in March of 18. And and it all goes back to some pretty straightforward sort of perspective, which is, what Eric was doing with Zoom from a headline perspective wasn't that new, right? You had various different tools out there, Google and WebEx and Skype at the time. I don't think Teams wasn't on the scene yet. You had GoToMeeting, you had LogMeIn, you had like a whole bunch of tools, video and Blue Jeans, which no longer exists. And I remember saying to Eric, it's like, you have all these tools out there, so why Zoom? And he said, well, it's true we have all those tools out there, but would you, I agree with that, but would you agree that they all work well all the time? And the answer to that question was clearly no. And that was his vision about Zoom: reliable, cost-effective, high quality, secure, etc. And I thought, okay, this could be fun, and here we are.
Yeah, I think I remember sharing with you and earlier, but my first exposure to Zoom was, I think, 2017 or maybe 2016. 2016. I worked at Talkdesk at the time as a CIO, and one of our customers was Hotel Tonight, and we had a call with them on whatever platform we use. I forgot what we used at the time for video conferences. Perhaps it was WebEx. And the IT team of Hotel Tonight said, "Hey, you guys should not use this software. Like, this is terrible. What if you have Zoom in your meeting room?" And I said, "Why?" And we don't have it, and we don't have the infrastructure, etc. And they literally, it was San Francisco. Their office was 10, 15 minutes away. Next time they came to meet us, they literally brought in somebody from IT. And as we had the meeting with them, they installed a Zoom room in our meeting room and said, "You can just use it for a few days. It's so much better. You're never going to go back." And we used Zoom on their account for a week or two. And then everybody in the company was like, "Yeah, that's so much better than everything else we
Yeah,
use." And
there's a phrase about
our
Zoom that just
companies,
works. It just
yeah.
works. It's like, you click the link, you're in the meeting, boom, boom. It's kind of, there's no downloading, there's no there's no nothing. It just works every time.
Yeah, and I think that was, to me, that was such a great example. I actually shared a story with Eric when I met him once, because that was such a great story where a customer literally not only telling you, "I love this product." This is a net promotion score. Our audience know it really well. You have an NPS of 9 or 10. You're promoting a company. This
Yeah.
was installing the software for us, using their equipment just so we can give it a try. And I think that was such a testament. And maybe stay with Zoom a little bit. You said it just works. How do you guys think of customer service for a software product that just works?
The product works, but then you can have, account issues, you can have administration issues, you can, there's billing issues. I mean, none of this stuff is like perfect, right? I mean, you do have issues, but I think the best service is to have no service, right? In terms of, customer service, like have no need to provide customer service. But I think that's I think that's a fallacy. I don't think that exists. But having a great customer experience from a customer service perspective, I think that's key to success as well. I mean, I'll give you a great example. I love sharing this example. I was in my apartment, and my juicer was making a funny clanking sound. This is like, a citrus juicer for making grapefruit juice at breakfast in the morning, which is one of my things. So I'm making juice. This juicer is making this clanging sound, which it never made before. And so after breakfast, I called 1-800, the appliance company, push 2, push 3. And I got this, service technician. And the service technician said the following, "Can I send you a video link?" And I thought, okay, well, that sounds like a good idea. So they texted to me to my phone, and I click the link, and it starts a video. And then the technician says, "Well, turn your camera around so I can see your appliance." I did that. And then the technician said, "Can you operate the appliance so I can see and hear it?" I did that. Technician said, "Okay, I can hear the noise. Clearly there's something wrong with your appliance. Could you turn it over so I can see the model number and the serial number?" I said, "Sure." And I did that. And then she said, "Okay, I'm sending you a UPS QR code to take the device down to the UPS store, and I'll send you the directions for UPS, to the UPS store near your apartment building. Take it into them. They'll package it and ship it back to us. And here's the tracking number for the new replacement appliance that we're sending you." This whole call lasted less than 3 minutes. And it was a fantastic customer experience. Fantastic. I mean, if I go into an appliance store and I'm looking at a kitchen appliance, I am naturally going to gravitate to this company. Why? Because I had a fantastic customer experience from that. Okay, the machine broke. Machines aren't perfect. They break. Parts go bad. It wasn't even an old machine. It was only 6 months old. But I had a great customer experience with this appliance company. And I would buy, I have bought appliances for people as wedding gifts. And I buy this juicer for them as a wedding gift. Why? Because I love this juicer and I love this company.
Oh,
because
yeah,
of
you have
that
to say
great
now which
customer
company is
experience.
that. We should give us some free advertisement for good customer service.
It was excellent.
Yeah, so with Zoom, and I have a couple more questions about Zoom, but I want to move away from Zoom. But one, how do you balance customer service where your customers all the way from 8 years old kids doing their homework or participating in classes and large enterprises with 100,000 users or 200,000 users. Very few companies have to deal with this massive range of your users can be literally kindergarten kids or massive corporation.
Yeah, well, they're complete, as you said, they're completely different experiences, right? So, you've got your online retail, so to speak, experience, your consumer experience versus the enterprise experience. And for the enterprise experience, they don't call 1-800 customer service. That's primarily for, small, medium businesses, individuals, etc. For large enterprises, you have to have, customer success managers, you have to have account execs, account managers, etc. You have to have, the whole array of support for an enterprise. It's these are very different businesses. But at the end of the day, what's fabulous about the Zoom platform is the same core product that the kindergarten kid is using on their Chromebook from school versus the enterprise is using it in their large auditorium for doing an event of many thousands of people. So that's what's very cool about the technology and the architecture.
And how do you set the customer service in a way that you can address both? I'm sure that you cannot take phone calls from every kindergartner, and at the same time, as you said, large enterprises tend to not call. How do you set support in customer service in a way that worked?
Yeah, well, as I said, it's like they're completely different segments. You're not, the kindergartner isn't going to call, the parent might call, but the kindergartner isn't going to call. And I think that they're very different segments.
Walk me back, and I think that's my last Zoom question. So you joined in 2018. Zoom was growing fast, but probably a more predictable way. And then the pandemic hit, and it's now March 2020, and the world switched to Zoom, not to Teams, not to any other product. It just literally switches to Zoom. It's the easiest product available. It scales fast, and all of a sudden, everybody's on Zoom. I know it's far memory now, but remember probably everybody remember the first dance party they went to on Zoom, and the first group chat they went on Zoom, and the first class, and there's so many firsts, and the first holiday celebrating with your family on Zoom. There's so many firsts on Zoom, and I'm sure your growth was breathtaking. Tell me about actually how it felt to be an executive at a company that had to grow this way in such an unpredictable fashion.
Yeah, it was just a little stressful at times. Um, Long days, people working grueling hours. I think that, sort of you wake up, you wake up in the morning and you have like a gazillion emails from people around the world, people I hadn't spoken to in years. Like, Harry, is kind of like, I need Zoom for my school, I need Zoom for my church. It's like we have a funeral, can Zoom help? And so on and so forth. It was just endless, the number of requests that would come in and the calls, etc. But again, credit to Eric, Yuan, and the Zoom team back then. It was very clear. Let's make sure we can keep the world functioning as best we can in these extreme circumstances where the world was literally at home. And that meant that, get Zoom licenses out there, help people as best we can to connect and communicate to family and friends around the world. And I think that sort of was a direct influence, if you will, in terms of like, let's just do Zoom and move on, because you had executives seeing their kindergartners using Zoom. They were connecting with family and friends on Zoom, and it just worked. And so what we had what we had in our enterprise is not really working very well. Why are we trying to futz around trying to get this other stuff to work when we could just license Zoom and move on? And so that was a big catalyst towards that explosive growth, to be honest. I mean, I remember talking to the CIO for a European law firm, And the CEO called him on a Monday morning. This was like early in March. The CEO called him on a Monday morning early in March and said, how many times in the last 5 years have I ever told you what to do? And he said, never. Okay. Well, I'm going to tell you what to do now, because I spoke to some friends over the weekend and they're all using Zoom for their way of connecting and collaborating during the pandemic. And so I know you are analyzing different tools for what we should be using globally for our firm. I'm going to tell you, we're picking Zoom. Can you get it licensed and get it deployed, and let's go with it. I remember one of the financial services firms here in New York called us on a Friday evening, actually at 6:00, again early in March, and said, we just came out of an executive session where we've decided we're going to go virtual for the entire firm globally, 180,000 people starting on Monday morning, and we have one question: can Zoom support us? And our only question to them was, what time Monday morning? Having a call the following Friday with the same people, they said, if you told us 3 months ago that you could take 180,000 people around the world and put them all on Zoom over the course of 5 business days, the most professional thing we would have done was laughed at you. But that's what you did over the last 5 days, and thank you for that.
And what was the direct impact on you as a CIO and your team? Like, what this growth felt like to your team?
Yeah, I think for the entire team of Zoom, it was just a lot of stress. People worked extraordinarily long hours, but we also had, besides the Zoom team, we also had, incredible partners around the world. I remember when we signed up, New York City schools, as an example, we needed additional capacity deployed into the East Coast data centers. And, getting additional network capacity under best circumstances, you could do it in 90 days. We needed it in 72 hours. And that network capacity was provided in 72 hours because of the amazing efforts by the partners as well. So there was an awful lot of people pulling together as one, with one sort of common objective, which is, let's keep our customers happy. Let's make sure we're doing everything possible to keep people connected, family, friends, corporates, educations, government agencies, etc. And it was reflecting on it now, was kind of like, yeah, it was a pretty wow moment.
Yeah. So taking a step back and maybe a 60,000 feet view, you mentioned 4.5 decades in technology. That's a long period of time. It's more than most people that are listening to us today. What have you seen as kind of the biggest technology impacts on the enterprise in this 4.5 decades? And maybe how would you compare the potential impact of AI to what you've seen before? Because you went through, internet, PCs, internet, mobile, and I think now, of course, cloud and now AI. So how do you think of this arch, and how do you compare AI to all of them?
They're all good questions. This is a particularly good question. It's like, I must admit, I haven't really stepped back and sort of thought too much about sort of how technology has changed. I will admit one thing, which is, as I said earlier, I started my career as a programmer, proprietary language on a proprietary operating system. And, in retirement, I've started to learn how to program again. It's dramatically different than how it was 4.5 decades ago. So things have made, sort of dramatically changed. And you mentioned several of them, cloud as an example. I mean, the ability, when I did my startup back in 1981, Gadi, it's like I had to buy like a mini computer. It cost me $100,000 back in 1981. I'll let you figure out what the present value of that would be today. But you had to buy a mini computer back then, and your terminals, and you had to, string it all together. Whereas today, if I wanted to start a company tomorrow morning, I could spin up, a bunch of servers in a cloud and be, functional by noon tomorrow, for probably, less cash than I have in my pocket right now. So it's, things have changed dramatically from a technology perspective. I also believe that people have changed dramatically over the last just as little as like 5 or 10 years. I believe that today, Gadi, everybody is a technologist in some way, shape, or form. When you look at the kids coming out of college, their technology literacy is dramatically more than what it was 10 or 15 years ago. When I speak to people in the education sector, more and more kids are taking, sort of technology classes, irrespective of what their majors are, because they want to be technically literate. I think that the role of technologists have changed too. It's less about building solutions today in the enterprise, and it's more about deploying technology that enables the different business units to function correctly. Whether it's doing data science, data analytics, etc. It's quite phenomenal. And it's also about putting tools in the hands of the end user so that they can sort of create the right solutions for their business. So I think it's quite it's the change has been rather dramatic. When we start talking about things like generative AI and things of that, and sort of that too has changed a lot. When you look at things like ChatGPT, and ChatGPT is the way I think someone characterized it recently, is putting the mouth on artificial intelligence. So which enables every person around the world to be able to interact with AI. I think that's sort of brilliant. But when we think of things like automation, I mean, that's been around for sort of years. I did straight through processing in financial services back in sort of the late 80s, where it was doing trade entry right on the trading floor, going through the back office settlement, clearing systems, payment systems, reconciliation system. Transaction was only handled as an exception when it sort of came off the conveyor belt. So we've had things like that for a long time, but when I think about sort of where AI is going, where automation is going, where robotics are going, I mean, it's just quite fabulous, the impact that this is going to have on things like not just education and enterprise, but healthcare. When you think of sort of the abilities we have in the healthcare industry today, it's quite fascinating.
So when you look at AI, and you went through multiple technological changes in the past, is AI going to dramatically change companies in a different way, or just going to be another step of evolution, just like cloud was and mobile was and other big changes we've seen in the last 20, 30 years?
Yeah, my opinion on this is clearly yes. I think generative AI, will have a dramatic impact on every company in every industry. And people, sort of talk about how it's going to displace people. Well, Gadi, I would say it's like, if you go back, 30 plus years ago, we used to have secretaries who would type up memos using typewriters, and then we had email. But somehow it's like people found jobs. It's like, people. So I think with the introduction of AI, it's going to displace people, yes, from doing repetitive type work and run type work and rudimentary work, and give people opportunities to do higher value work and have a better life, actually. So I think that these things will change companies. And I think there's companies that are looking how can they sort of take their workforce and reskill them to provide higher value to the company. I think that's pretty exciting, to be honest.
As you work with people, with companies, and also talk with younger people, again, taking the experience you have, what do you, which advice do you give people? What's going to be the impact on a 22, 23 years old person get into the job market now in a white collar job, given AI? Which tasks do you think are going to be the first to go, and which tasks are going to be still viable?
I think that, sort of today, sort of people are using AI as an enhancement to their work. And I think that's pretty exciting. So whether you're writing marketing materials or you're writing job descriptions, or, one company I does restaurant reviews, so as an individual, when you're writing stuff, being able to use AI to enhance your abilities, I think that's, so it makes it more of that, sort of helps you create a better work product. So it's a fantastic tool from that perspective. And I think we're going to see sort of lots of different ways that AI will be used. I remember going recently to an event where there was the CIO for a pharmaceutical company, and they're using AI to come up with new molecular structures, which is really interesting. And so they took one of these molecular structures and showed it to a bunch of scientists together, and the scientists all looked at this molecular structure and said, wow, that's amazing. We would never have constructed a structure like that. And so I think that, sort of these tools are going to be able, in the immediate term, enhance our abilities to think out of the box and do things that we would not have logically arrived at using our existing sort of thinking, if you will.
And so a couple more questions before we switch into our speed dial. Talk to me about build versus buy. We especially now where AI seems to be easy. People, oh, ChatGPT is I just type things and they come back, and the APIs are easy to work with. We hear more and more CIOs that want to build instead of working with off-the-shelf software. How did you make these decisions in the past, and what would you recommend to CIOs when they're evaluating solutions?
I've got a very
When should you build? When should you buy?
Yeah, I've got a very strong opinion on this. Buy as much as you can and build as little as you can. Why? Because you can never maintain the investment the same way as a company can. If you take a product like Zoom, trying to build your own audio conferencing platform, I mean, that's just crazy. Why wouldn't you leave that up to people who are, who have the DNA of that technology? It's like customer experience. It's like what you guys do at Replicant. Why would you build that as opposed to buy it? I would much rather buy it than build a customer experience automation tool, because you guys, this is what you think about all day, every day. You will always do it exceptionally better than I ever can. You have the resources for it that I would never have. The things that I would build are things that I can't buy, which are, proprietary to my business and my enterprise and my product or my service. Those are things that are worthwhile building. The things that create value for our company in building out new products, new services, better, revenue generating tools, and buy the tools for operating the enterprise.
Yeah, I think the maintenance point is so important, and people get excited with new tools, with new toys often. And actually remember this conversation was a customer of TalkDesk years and years ago. They came in and they actually demoed the product they built, which was very good and great fit to their needs. It was a contact center solution they built internally. And I asked them, wow, this looks like a pretty good solution you built internally. Why do you want to replace it? And the head of contact center said, I submitted a Jira ticket 4 months ago to change a prompt in the IVR, and I'm still waiting. I think that was the moment when they said, we just cannot wait because our business change and IT does not change with us.
Yeah.
So,
And I always maintain it's like, if I'm employed by the company, I am, sort of I would rather build, sort of value generating, products, as opposed to building technologies that I can buy, because those are the ones that I mean, would I ever build a general ledger? No, you'd be mad to build your own general ledger. You'd be mad to build your own CRM. You'd be mad to build your own customer, experience, customer automation, ticketing system, etc. Why would you build any of these things? These are things that you buy, and you build things that you can't buy that enhance your company, your enterprise.
I, of course, wholeheartedly agree with you. I did not know what you would answer, which makes it even more interesting. Uh, what would be your advice, or if you're now back in seat in a company with large consumer base and a lot of customer service, where will you invest your resources right now when it comes to the technology infrastructure of a contact center?
Well, definitely, I'm not just saying this, Gadi, because it's replicant, but customer experience. It's like going back to the example, that I shared earlier on. Creating an amazing customer experience creates, loyalty and branding and reputation that you just can't buy. It's kind of like, by not having a great customer experience, you create the opposite. By having a poor, so I'll give you another example. It's like, being on the, there's a particular financial organization, you call and you're on hold, and then you authenticate and you answer all their security questions, and then you get into like a 30-minute queue, and then you get pushed over to a human being who asks you the same questions that you already told the system, and they got no idea about looking into your profile and why you're calling. It's just a horrible experience. Horrible. Completely in opposite of having a great customer experience. I'll ding this company every day, as opposed to saying glowing remarks about this other company. So customer experience is having a great customer experience in the retail industry is key to loyalty, commitment, branding. Yeah, it's like, so if I was the CIO in a consumer company today, I would be making sure I have not just an amazing product, but an amazing customer experience.
All right, so our last part, we're going to spend a few minutes on what we call speed dial, which is a quick segment where I ask you several questions, and the only rule is you should answer in one sentence. So it's all going to be really quick. You told us about a great customer. Yeah, we'll try. Bring back the New Yorker in you. You talked about great customer service experience you had with your juicer. What is a poor customer experience you had in recent memory?
Calling an airline to make a flight change.
And what was poor about that?
Speaking to somebody who is trying to express their apologies for delays and for the cancellation, and it's just trying to get on a new flight, trying to get a new booking. I think the airline industry, from a customer experience, is just, that and financial services, I think, are two sort of industries that are give a very poor customer experience. You call up, you get authenticated, you answer the questions on the automated system, and then you get handed over to a person who has no idea who you are, why you're calling, go through the whole process again, then they hand you off to another person. It's just horrible. Just a horrible experience.
I think rank consistently is one of the most frustrating things for customers, is to be handed over from an agent to agent without any context. It just feels like such a waste of time. It's much worse than just even waiting to an agent to pick up your phone. So if you think of a customer service agent of the future, with everything you know about AI and everything you know about customer service, what personality trait you think will be most important for an agent maybe a decade from now?
Yeah, I think that, a customer service agent needs to be authentic. They need to be very, have clear and succinct communications. And ideally, sort of without me having to tell them why I'm calling, have figured out why I'm calling.
Mhm.
So, I mean, the number one objective for a customer service, if I was a customer service agent, my number one objective would be to get you off this call as soon as I can and as delighted as I can.
That's such a great goal. If you think of customer service AI versus agents, what do you think the split will end up being? If 100% AI, 100% humans, or anything in between, where do you think the split will be in the future?
I think sort of, I mean, ideally, I would like 100% AI. Why? Because I just want to get, why do you call customer service? You don't call customer service because it's a good day. You're calling customer service because something's broken, something needs to be fixed. So I just want to call customer service. I want to get off this call as soon as I can, and I don't want to be told, how's the weather? What did you have a nice Thanksgiving? How are you feeling today? As a customer service agent, you don't give a shit about my life. As a customer service agent, you should be focused on sort of making sure that you're taking care of me and why I'm calling and getting me off the line. So I think, sort of personally, my preference would be 100% AI. I don't think that's reasonable. I don't think that's achievable. But I certainly think that when I get to talk to a human customer service agent, they should have a full profile of me when I call in. I called in somewhere the other day. I'm trying to remember what it was, and they knew everything about me just on my phone number. I think I called about an order, and they had the order up in front of them. They knew exactly what I had ordered, when I had ordered it. They knew all about the tracking number, etc. And that was a good customer experience. Another great brand.
And what excites you most about AI?
What excites me most about AI? I think that, sort of, and we touched on a bunch of these. I think that it's helping people provide a better service. I think it's helping people provide, sort of do a better job. I think that, the impact it's going to have on education, the impact it's going to have on healthcare, these are, we can only imagine what these things are going to do. In fact, I don't think we can imagine what these things are going to do. Going back to that example of the molecular structure from that pharma company, yeah, I think my recommendation to people would be to experiment with it, find out, sort of, don't try to figure out, is it going to work or isn't it going to work? Experiment with it and think when it works, then that's great. And when it doesn't work, okay, that was an experiment. Let's do another one. It's like, you got to experiment with AI and see how it works best for you.
Oh, Harry, thank you so much for joining. It was a great episode. Thank you, everybody, for dialing in. And until next time, thank you very
Gadi,
much.
thank you. Thank you, guys. Bye.